2007 Honda Fit with the 1.5 four-cylinder engine, and today we're going to be adjusting the valve lash, or just adjusting the valves. This is something that has to happen on most Honda engines. Honda recommends doing it every 50 to 60,000 miles. I would at least do it every 100K whenever you do your 1,000 mile tune-up. But this video is going to be pretty much the same for every Honda four-cylinder out there that requires your valves to be adjusted. Just know that if it is not a Honda Fit with this same engine that came in the 2007s, that your specifications for, different amounts of torque or the clearance for your feeler gauge between your intake and your exhaust valves or rocker arms may be different. So make sure you look up those specifications for your vehicle or your engine specifically before beginning this repair. But other than that, this is going to be an in-depth, detailed guide. I will try to keep my editing to limit how long the video is, but I also don't want to cut out anything important. Other than that, let's get to it. First things first, is go ahead and remove our engine cover using a flathead screwdriver and a 10mm socket. To remove these two nuts up top, and this will just lift straight off. And our next step is obviously to start removing this intake upper manifold. To do that, we're going to start by taking off our intake box, or at least the top of it. Go ahead and release our airbox filter housing clips, and using a 5.5mm socket, we're going to reach down in here, hopefully, and loosen that hose clamp, and make sure that that comes loose. Pull this out, and that is actually connected to the whole box. So let's switch over to a 10mm. Take out this bolt right here. There we go. Disconnect this attachment right there, and go ahead and remove this hose clamp right here, and just pull this out of the intake. I'm going to put that clamp right back on there so it doesn't disappear on me, hopefully. Got our intake sensor right here in the back. Press down on that and pull that connector off. And start wiggling this out of the way. Oh, there's another 10mm hidden right there. Don't make me remove the battery. I should not need to remove the battery to do this. Thank you. Stop playing around with my tripod, please. And remove this. Just put that back in there. Next, I don't know if I'm going to need to remove the throttle body, so I'm going to play with that later. But we are going to need to get this electrical harness off of here. So we can go ahead and disconnect this connector right here. This connector right here. And we can pull that off of that sleeve. And there's another sleeve right here. And how you get these off is that there's right here. It's going to be hard to show this. Let's see if there's another one where it'll be easier to show you. Nope, they all face the wrong way. So these, you just kind of slide them off and they'll come off like that. Let's see if I can't show you that again. You just slide them like that and they slide off. These ones, there's a little prong right here in the middle, and you just have to pull that out and you'll be able to slide it off. can go ahead and get our brake booster hose off the back of the intake manifold right here. Let's go ahead and tuck that out of the way. Someplace visible, but out of the way so it won't get caught on something later. All right, looks like that's about it for everything I need to remove the upper intake manifold. So we're gonna go ahead with a 12mm and we're going to remove these 5, well technically 3 of these are bolts and the bottom 2 are nuts. And it should be 12s for all of them. Yeah, they're all 12s. One nut. Two nut. And our 3 bolts. And remove, these are our metal braces. These are what actually the bolts screw into. And the one on the bottom, you'll see, pulls out. And this is the part that the nuts screw onto. Make sure you don't lose these or else you will not be able to resecure your upper intake manifold. And we can pull this off, and it feels like there's something. And we have a small 10mm bolt right there behind the intake manifold. And that should be just about it. Let go. Hose clamp popped off. Let me grab that before I forget about it. Put that in my basket. And these have coolant lines on them for the throttle body, and I don't feel like playing with coolant, so I'm just going to leave that alone. Just let that hang over. Make sure nothing is pinched or anything that's going to get damaged. And that's pretty much all there is to that. So we'll go ahead and this is broken off, but there should be a clip right here to pull this piece out. Make sure I'm still on camera. I'm not on camera. I'm talking to nobody. But other than that, we got a clip right here. This one is broken, but you can see it goes right in here. Just pull that clip out, and we're going to disconnect our coil packs. And we're just going to lay that hose. My phone will not stop ringing today. I'm going to lay that harness out of the way and continue to isolate our valve cover. All right, and we can go ahead and remove this hose clamp. Make sure that's broken loose and wiggle it off. And I believe that's it. I'm going to remove this connector because it's in the way of this bolt right here. And that's pretty much it. Go ahead and start getting this valve cover off. It's just a couple of 10mm bolts. No. This is gonna fight me, so I'm just gonna push that out of the way. There's a bolt right here. It feels like it might be a 12. You can unbolt that if you want. I'm just gonna bend it out of the way and then bend it back once I'm done. I'm not gonna waste a bunch of time on this. All right, and there's our valves. Next, we go ahead and take the front passenger tire off. The reason we're taking the tire off is because we need to get to the main crank pulley, which is located right there. Now me, I probably don't need to do it, but your vehicle will probably have a cover in here held in by some pop tabs that will need to be removed. This car, however, has been through a lot. It's got like over 300,000 miles on it. So it doesn't surprise me that it's missing wheel well covers and stuff like that. But anyway, go ahead and take this front passenger tire off by removing these 4 19mm lug nuts. There we can see our main crank. And go ahead and get yourself a nice size ratchet and a 19mm, and we can get ready to turn our engine in the clockwise rotation, and we're going to rotate it until we get right here on our camshaft. Sorry, I'm trying to move my light bar. You can see right here there's a tiny little 2. All right, when that 2 is standing up top and flush with the valve cover right here, that means that cylinder 2 is at top dead center. What we're looking for cylinder 1 is the word up. So we'll rotate until we find that. It'll be a little bit difficult for me to reach under here and do this, but luckily it's just a little 4-cylinder engine, so it shouldn't be too hard to turn by hand. Oh, there's up right there. I'm gonna rotate until it is level. Beautiful, just like that. That is what we're looking for. Right there. So, we'll be doing this in order. And for our vehicle, cylinder 1, 2, 3, and 4, here's your engine, here's the front of the vehicle. Our firing order is 1, 3, 4, 2. So the first thing we're going to check our valve coverage on is cylinder 1, then 3, then 4, then 2. You'll be rotating this camshaft in the same clockwise rotation, and you'll stop at each letter. So if we're at up, which is 1, next will be 3, then 4, then 2. And during this process, you'll only need to rotate the camshaft a full 360 degrees to get this taken care of. So make sure you turn that crankshaft down below very slowly, because if you miss one of these numbers, you're gonna have to do a full rotation again to get back to it. So we're at up right now. That's nice and level. If I stop fighting my tripod, see if I can't move my light bar into a little bit better of a location. And according to the manual, we will be checking for clearance on the intake valves between 0.006 and 0.007 of an inch, or if you want to use millimeters, you can do that too. And on the exhaust valves, which are the valves towards the back of the engine, will be between 0.10 and 0.12 of an inch. And here I have the intake, 0.006, and the exhaust, 0.010. Here are our measurements. We're going to go ahead and check our clearance. Now, what you should have is it should fit there, but it should have just a tiny bit of drag on it. I don't know if you can hear that, but this is just barely squeezing on that. Let's go ahead and switch over to the intake, or the, I'm sorry, the other valve on the intake. Now this one is loose. I can pull this through here, no problem. I'm gonna go ahead and adjust both of them though, because this one can probably be a half a turn tighter. Now, how these work is that you have a screw right here, and you have a 10mm locking nut. So we're gonna go ahead and, if I can, I'm gonna go ahead and hold down that screw with a flathead screwdriver and with my 10mm socket, which this is kind of hard to get on camera. Let me try moving my tripod. I'm basically just going to hold this screw into its place and break this nut loose. Apparently I'm not going to do that. Yeah, I figured you were going to act up. Alright, so our screw, and so our locking nut is now loose. It was definitely on there very tight, and we can adjust our screw down. And you see how this is tight now? I can barely pull this in and out. I'm going to loosen that up just a little bit, just until it starts to grab onto it right there. And we'll go ahead and lock this locking nut down. And when you're putting these down, make sure that you have your screw kind of holding it in the opposite rotational force so it doesn't move, because you want this screw to stay right where it is as you're tightening that up. Yeah, that is perfect. It's just barely touching it. We have just a little bit of resistance. You can feel it there, but it's not really stopping you from pulling it in or out. Each one of these locking nuts is supposed to go down 10 foot-pounds. But there's no real way to do that properly, because it's not like I can get a torque wrench on here with a socket and still hold that screw. So if anybody's curious, it's 10 foot-pounds. I'm not really too sure how you're going to pull it off, but maybe tell me in the comments. Maybe there's a special 10mm wrench that has a thing on there. Or you could use like a crow's foot. Yeah, that would probably work. A 10mm crow's foot connected to a torque wrench set to 10 foot-pounds, and you could do that. Yeah, that would work. If you had more clearance and stuff, that would be easy. But anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and put them down nice and tight. I have a good judgment of roughly what 10 foot-pounds feels like, because I've been doing this for about 20 years. So I'll just keep sticking with what I know. Go ahead on to the next intake valve. And we'll go ahead and break the next intake valve for cylinder 1 loose. These things are on there ridiculously tight. Impressive. All right. So I don't think I'm going to be able to be nice and neat about this as I want to be. Go ahead and check that clearance. Make sure that we're putting this thing in here nice and flat. See, we have just a little bit. I can just barely feel it on this one. There it goes. Yep, I like that. That's nice. And we'll go ahead and lock this one down. And we're going to do the same thing for the exhaust ones here in the back. So make sure that you have switched over to your .010. I'm going to go ahead and put a small bend in these for the exhaust, because this is going to be tough to get back here. There is no clearance there. It is touching. Yep, that is touching. Okay. That could be a big issue. How hard down is this thing? There's no room in here for any of this. Thank you. That was like stuck. got that right where we want it. Go ahead and tighten down our locking nut. And move on to our last valve for cylinder 1. This one's tight too, but at least I can actually put it in here. Okay. That's it for cylinder 1, and let's go ahead and move on to cylinder 3. So once again, we're going to go down here to our crankshaft, and we're going to rotate the engine until that 3 is at top dead center. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. About right there. Might be a little hard to see, but there is a 3 right there at the top of our camshaft, right in here. Boop. There's a 3 printed on that. I'm hoping that shows up. And we've got that at top dead center. So now we can move on to our cylinder 3 valves, which will be these 4 right here. So again, we'll start with the intake and our 0.006. Go ahead and just give this a feel. Very loose. The other side is not touching at all. Go ahead and put a small bend in this. The other side is not touching at all. It's completely, it is completely lost. The rocker arm has completely lost contact. Look at that. With the top of the valve spring. Oh, I'm sorry, the top of the valve stem. So this vehicle does tend to have a cylinder 3 misfire. And this definitely could be it. The reason for that. Just gonna go ahead and break these loose real quick. I learned from cylinder 1 that I need to be careful because these are all on here extremely tight and you will bust your knuckles. So I'm just gonna break these 2 loose. Unscrew them a little bit. I'm gonna come in here again with my 0.006 on my feeler gauge. I'm gonna lift up on that. Look at that, there's no contact at all. That's the worst one I've seen in a while. same thing. And lock this one down. And I'm going to come back here and put a little more on this one, make sure it's down nice and tight. Yeah, that's got physical touch. That one's got, I think this one feels like the most perfect one. And it kind of makes me want to redo this one a little bit. No, that feels pretty good too. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna readjust it. I can go like 1/8 of a turn more. Right there. Alrighty. Go ahead and break our exhaust valves. Locking nuts loose. Come on. And give both of them probably just like one spin, just to make sure they're loose enough that you have enough space to make the adjustments you need to do. Wow, I can actually wiggle this around in here. Okay. Tighten this one down. No way. That was almost 2 full rotations of the screw before it made contact. Just over 2 full rotations. Go ahead and rotate that locking nut down all the way, and then come in here with our wrench and put it down tight. Alright, and our final valve. This one actually feels pretty good. It's just barely touching it. I might just be doing this wrong. Okay. And our final valve. Did I break this loose already? Yes, I did. Okay. And the last exhaust valve for cylinder 3 has no clearance at all. Okay. Can't get the fuel gauge in there at all. deal. Thank you. It was locked in place. I'm gonna keep wiggling this thing around. Rotate down our working nut. There we go. And tighten it down. And we're good for cylinder 3. We'll rotate the engine again over to cylinder 4. Ah, fly, get away from me. There's cylinder 4. And so far, this is the only one that has contact. The other 3 are wiggling. Go ahead, just keep doing the same thing. If you haven't figured it out by now, this is pretty much the whole job. We just rotate it until 4 is top dead center. Ow. Let me break these loose a wee bit. And for our intake, we'll be going back to the .006 feeler gauge. This has no contact at all. This one. Nice and tight. No connection here. So for this intake, go ahead and you see how this is moving nice and freely. We want it to just barely be touching this feeler gauge. I can feel it grabbing right there. Just a little bit. If I turn it just a little bit more, it locks it. I want it just to be touching it right there. And go ahead and hold that screw while turning down the locking nut. Come in here and just give it a little bit with the open wrench, and then we can come back with the box end of the wrench and tighten it down more. There you go. intake valves are done. Let's move on to the exhaust valves. They're too tight, I can't get the gauge in there at all. Give these a small spin. How about now? There we go. Now we've got some room in here. Go ahead and set our adjustment again for the exhausts, which are these in the back. The ones in the front are your intake. For the exhausts, we'll be using the 0.010 of an inch. It doesn't seem like it wants to go back in here now. Thank you. Looks like right there is the sweet spot. Back this screw off a little bit because this one's just straight up touching. Right there. And when you're adjusting these screws, you want to make sure that you're not pressing down with your screwdriver, because that's going to move the rocker arm right here, and that's going to close the gap too. You want this rocker arm to float, so make sure you're being careful when you're doing that. I don't know what is going on outside, but I hope it don't come up in here. No, wait for all this to pass and we'll be right back. And last but not least, cylinder 2. Again, we're going to rotate down by the crankshaft down here until we have a 2 flush with the top of the cylinder head right here. And you'll see, it won't just have a little 2 inside of a square. It'll have kind of like a hash line going right on top of the cam. And that's what you want to line up with the top of the cylinder head right here. I'll go back to finishing this rotation. And right there, cylinder 2, which will be these 4 valves right here. Go ahead and get to work on them. Breaking loose the intake valves. And if you want to start on the exhaust valves too, there's not really a wrong reason to do it, as long as all 4 are adjusted and all 4 locking nuts are put back down nice and tight. It doesn't really matter which order you do this in. So if you're more comfortable doing the exhaust valve first, or if you just want to check them and do whichever ones you want to do, go ahead. I just like to adjust all of them. We've already got it off, and I want to make my customers happy, you know? So I'm just keep trying to do my best with what I got. There's lock, and we'll just back it off a little bit, about right there. All right, wrench, I need you to figure out which way you want to work. You can't be loose in both directions, okay? And our final exhaust valves. There we go. What is your deal? Thank you. I'm gonna try to do this and get a decent camera shot, but don't expect too much from me, okay? And our final valve, yay! And in case I haven't gone into detail about this, while moving the feeler gauge in between the rocker arm and the top of the valve stem, you want to go ahead and keep moving your feeler gauge in here and very slowly tighten down your adjustment screw without pressing down on the rocker arm. You don't want to be pushing down with your screwdriver, just want to be very slowly turning it, and eventually your feeler arm or your feeler gauge right here is going to start getting tighter and tighter and try to keep your feeler arm as flat as possible in here. That's why putting these little bends in here can be very helpful on your feeler gauge. And you see right here we have almost lockout, where it wants to just bite down on the feeler gauge. We don't want that. We want to still be able to move it. It should just barely be moving. Here we have contact, and that's it right there. That's the sweet spot where you can feel it grabbing onto it, but not tight enough where it's going to lock it up. What is your deal? Alright, and put that nut down nice and tight. Again, all of these nuts are supposed to be put down at 10 foot-pounds, but I have no idea how you would possibly do that while still holding your adjustment screw. So, unless Honda has a special tool that I've never heard about, I just put them down until they feel good. Just put them down tight, comfortably tight, you know. I'd rather these be put down like 15 foot-pounds than 5 foot-pounds, you know what I mean? I'd rather it be a little bit over-torqued than under-torqued, and one of these valves, adjustment screws, comes out and goes loose and destroys the whole engine. I'd rather it be a little bit tighter than too loose. So that's pretty much all there is to it. Go ahead and put your valve cover back on. If you bent this piece of metal out of the way like I did, make sure you go ahead and bend that back down so you can put your electrical harness back on there. For the valve cover, make sure you clean off your spots right here where the front of your engine timing cover right here meets the cylinder head. You'll see that there's a crease or a crack right here and right here. Make sure you put some black RTV back here before you put the valve cover back on. And if you want to replace your valve cover gasket, if yours is still in good shape, you know, feel free to use it. I recommend replacing it. So that's what we're gonna do here. But other than that, go ahead and put everything else back together in the exact reverse order that we took it apart from, and you should be good to go. If you'd like to see another video on this vehicle, go ahead and check out that one next. I made this one just for you. But other than that, if this video helped you out, leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. See you all next time.